Ken Rosenthal wrote in The Athletic that the Astros are continuing to look at free agents Andrew Benintendi, Michael Brantley, and Michael Conforto as options for their outfield. He noted that after the Astros lost out on signing Wilson Contreras, they might even explore signing 2 of the 3. My theory on this, if you're signing 2 of the 3, it's Brantley back on a 1-year deal, and Conforto's not going to be as nearly as expensive as Andrew Benintendi. So that, to me, is the only scenario where you'd be able to sign 2 of those guys. If you can only sign 1, I think Andrew Benintendi, by far and away, makes the most sense for the Astros.
I just don't vibe with Benintendi and paying him the amount of money that it seems like he's going to get. Like, that just doesn't fit right with me. Like, that's not... It feels like you should have done something else, spent the money elsewhere, like shopped a little bit more expensive, or, use that money elsewhere. Andrew Benintendi just doesn't do much for me. Like, he's a good baseball player. Like, I'm not sitting here acting like it'd be a massive overspend on a guy who's not any good. It just doesn't do anything for me.
So you like the other 2 guys more?
I'd rather, I guess, the Brantley and Conforto experiment, and then just, repurpose that spot again next offseason to somebody else.
So if that costs more than just Andrew Benintendi, you would do that. If the combination, because I think Benintendi's going to get the biggest deal of the 3 individually, but let's just say on an average annual value basis, bringing both Michael Brantley and Michael Conforto in here costs more than just Andrew Benintendi. Are you okay with doing that?
Yeah, I'm okay with doing that because it's only likely a 1-year commitment on both of those guys. I suppose Brantley could be that 1 year with the option, or that 2-year thing that he signed a couple of years ago. But it seems to me like both those guys would be year-to-year type players. Certainly with Conforto, he wants to play a year, rebuild the value, and then hit the market again and get one of those big Boris deals like all the Boris clients seem to get. So, yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't want the long-term commitment of Andrew Benintendi. And I know I was reading earlier this offseason that Benintendi's the type of guy that maybe some coaching staffs look at, some hitting coaches look at, and feel like there's something to his game that you could maybe unlock, and you could combo some of his power that he had previously and keep that with the ability that he's had to get on base and hit the ball for average now, and he could be a better baseball player than in recent years. That just doesn't... If you're going to spend on Benintendi, why didn't you spend on Wilson Contreras? Is it really as simple as Martin Maldonado's the everyday catcher? Well, then that's a bad deal this offseason.
Well, what's more valuable, though? An everyday outfielder or a catcher who can't play every day that offensively is not going to give you as much production as Andrew Benintendi would in left field? Or playing him in the outfield somewhere.
Benintendi also, from a where he plays in the field perspective, doesn't jive with anything anybody said about what Yordan's doing. Like, from the everyday outfielder that former general manager James Click said about Yordan to 40 to 50% that maybe general manager Jeff Bagwell said to Dusty Baker saying 60 to 70%. Like, Benintendi's got to play almost every day in left field, right? That's why you'd have him.
How many games has he played in center in his career?
Benintendi?
Yeah.
A decent amount.
So that would be the option. You play him in center field.
Yeah, you could kind of have a rotating door with him in left and him in center, and then you could give Chaz some days off or Chaz some partial days off and make him the DH. Obviously, you could do that in left field with Yordan, too, so you get a little bit of a position versatility with a guy like Andrew Benintendi, but he's going to cost the most, and he's going to warrant the longest deal. That's why I'm not sure the Astros are legitimately going to be in the running for Andrew Benintendi. Like, I think the 5 years scared the Astros off from Wilson Contreras, which is what he ultimately got from St. Louis. The Athletic a couple of days ago did updated free agent contract projections. They said Andrew Benintendi is going to get 5 for $75. Like, the Astros don't give out 5-year deals to free agents. That's just not something that Jim Crane does. So I don't think he's going to break that for Andrew Benintendi. I just don't think he's good enough for Jim Crane to completely change his philosophy with the way that he handles his free agents.
If you don't sign Benintendi, you're not going to sign Brandon Nimmo because he's going to cost even more. So it kind of does feel like they might be done and just run it back with Michael Brantley and maybe take a flyer on Michael Conforto, who won't be as nearly as expensive as Benintendi would. Like, they could be done with those moves right there. Maybe it's Yuli instead of Conforto, but it kind of feels like if they want Yordan to play left field and want to give Chaz a shot in center field, well, then Yuli could come in, kind of fill in wherever you need him, and you bring back Michael Brantley, assuming he's healthy, and you know he's going to be that professional hitter that you think could still contribute to your lineup.
Unless you show up with the most amount of money, why would Conforto come here unless he's getting a lot of opportunity? That would be my thing. Again, his goal this season is likely 1-year deal, rebuild the value, hit the market again next year, and then get the long-term deal. So any sort of idea about Conforto, to me, from where I sit, feels like you would need to have some sort of substantial commitment to him that he's the guy that's playing a lot, either left field / DH.
That's a great point. And if you bring Michael Brantley back, I don't think you can make that full commitment to Michael Conforto, right? Like if you just bring Conforto in, then it's like, hey, dude, you're the left fielder when Jordan's the DH, and you're the DH when Jordan's the left fielder, so you're basically going to be playing, I don't want to say every day because nobody plays every day with Dusty, but you're going to get a lot of run here in Houston and a chance to rebuild your value for free agency next year or the year after that. But if you bring Brantley in too, then, yeah, you've got a 3-man platoon for 2 positions. That doesn't give Michael Conforto the opportunity to rebuild his value out there on the open market. So I like the idea of having both of them. Hell, more good players, sign me up. And you get insurance in case of an injury, right? Insurance for Michael Brantley if that injury lingers into the season and or he's not the same player when he does come back. You've got insurance there. And obviously, if something were to happen to one of your players, then you've got a really, really good guy off the bench who you could throw in there and not feel like you're taking any sort of a step back. Problem is, that's very appealing for the fans. It's very appealing for Jim Crane. It's very appealing for Dusty Baker. Is that appealing to the guy that you're trying to sign?
I'd be interested to know exactly where the organization is on some of their AAA outfielders in case Michael Brantley's the plan and you need a guy in the building for, say, the first month, the first 6 weeks of the season until Michael Brantley is ready and he's ready to go. Like, do they feel like they want to have Pedro Leon on this team from the jump? And he's a super sub because he can play a little bit in the infield. He can play a couple of the outfield spots. Pedro Leon didn't hit very well last year at AAA for the Space Cowboys. So, how do they feel about Pedro Leon? Would they want him up? He could play center field on days when Jordan's DHing, and then you could move Chaz over to left field. So how do they feel about him? And they had a guy last year at AAA for the Space Cowboys, hit 31 bombs and have a 270 batting average with 351 on base percentage. Corey Julks. He was crushing the ball at AAA last year. And I get that's AAA, and he's been around the minors for a couple of years, so maybe he's one of those quad A players that you hear about. But it's not the worst thing in the world that if he was the backup outfielder or the rotational outfielder for, say, a month while Brantley's getting healthy, like that's not the worst thing in the world. At that point, though, what are you spending the money on? If you're talking to Benintendi, if you're talking to Conforto, if you're still talking to Brantley, like there's a little bit of cash left out there to dish around. You got to spend it somewhere, right? But I just don't like the long-term commitment that Benintendi comes with.
That's fair. And that's why I don't like hearing that the Astros plan on waiting until January or February to see what the deal is with Michael Brantley. Like, I would love Michael Brantley back here. I think he's going to come back and be a good player. And I brought this up yesterday. He's one of the most negatively impacted players by the shift. Shift going away, there's reason to believe Michael Brantley could put up even better offensive numbers than what he's done the last couple of years. I'd love to know that, hey, a healthy Michael Brantley is back on the Houston Astros. But if you wait until January or February, and then you find out that it might take until May or June, or, hey, he's never going to be the same player ever again, then you've let everybody else sign. Like, free agents are signing like crazy right now. This has been a wild week. Like, refreshing Twitter all the time, just expecting somebody else to find a new team right now. You're not going to have the option of Michael Conforto or Andrew Benintendi if you're waiting till January or February to figure out what Michael Brantley is. So you got to figure that out right now. If you do decide to wait and see, then yeah, the odds are you're just going to be running it back with the guys that you had last year and hope that Brantley can be the guy he was before the injury.
Is there any name that we're missing? Is there a name that we're missing, or is there a trade or something like that? Like, is there a big, expensive contract sitting out there that, and some team needs to unload that the Astros have the money for?
You think the Astros would make a trade?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I've got
why not?
I've got the Contreras trade deadline thing in my head. Like, I don't know who they'd be willing to give up in a deal to get somebody impactful.
Well, they had. I mean, it's not like they didn't make any deals. They went and got Christian Vasquez. They went and got Trey Mancini.
Right, a couple of rentals that didn't require them to give up a whole lot. Like,
sure.
I feel like you're talking about this option, this big money guy. It would require you to give up something of pretty substance.
And one of these organizations crying poor, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we can't afford this guy. We'd love to get the money off our books. The Stros got money to burn. We'll take a lesser deal, get the money off our books, and we don't have to pay this guy. Like, again, I'm just asking if there's because again, we started the offseason very clear that there's a few lanes the Astros can spend their money. It's Justin Verlander at the starting pitching spot, and if not him, probably not anybody else. It's left field / DH, and it's catcher, and it's first base. Well, they spin at first base, and now it's down. They're not going to spend at catcher because none of these guys are expensive anymore. And so now it's down to spending the money on the left field / DH thing. And so I'm just wondering, if you have the money, is there somebody out there that we're just not thinking about or not paying attention to from a factoring into the left field / DH standpoint?
Well, if you want to make a trade, call up the Pirates and get Brian Reynolds. We talked about him over the summer. I mean, you willing to trade prospects? I mean, he's under team control for several more years.
That's
kind of feels like that's an Astros move.
Pretty expensive trade.
You can trade one of your starting pitchers in that deal because you have an excess of it right now. Maybe that helps to get it done. You got 6 starters right now.
I feel like most Astros fans would say don't trade any of the starters.
No.
I'm not saying you trade Christian Javier, but I'd be willing to listen on Urquidy or Luis Garcia.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I don't think I would be either. And if the Astros weren't willing to make a trade when they had 7, I don't think they're going to be willing to make a trade when they have 6. But yeah, look, I would.
That was for a rental though in Contreras.
Yeah, I still don't think they'll do
team control for several more years.
I'll eat my words if I'm wrong. I don't think they're trading one of their starting pitchers. I mean, I'd be on board with Brian Reynolds being here, but yeah, who are they comfortable giving up?
Yeah, I mean, we don't even know if the Pirates want guys who've already touched the majors. They may want only minor league guys.
Right.
You know.
Well, the Pirates are really bad at this, so I'd call them and see if you can rip them off.
Yep, I'm down with that.
They stink. When was the last time the Pittsburgh Pirates executed a really good trade? They got nothing for Garrett Cole. They traded Clay Holmes to the Yankees for a guy that's not even on their team anymore. Like, I could keep going with the list of just, like, Pirates ineptitude with trades.
Didn't they do, like, this big trade with the Rays that has a bunch of Rays players that are really good?
Tyler Glasnow?
Yeah.
That was in the Chris Archer deal.
Yeah.
They stink.
All right, call them up.
Can I trade my lettuce wrap for your chocolate milk, Pittsburgh? Can I get that? Those little lunchtime trades.
Free agent in 2026. Like, you got this guy for 3 seasons under cost control, or arbitration eligible starting next year.
They'd give you chocolate milk and fruit gushers.
Oh,
that
man.
Deal. That's dealing with the Pirates.
You think I can get them to throw in a fruit by the foot too?
Do it.
All right.
And their owner's name is very funny as well, so give us a reason to talk about him.
The Nutter. Isn't it Bob Nutting?
Bob.
It's a Robert Nutting.
Eugene Nutting.
He's a nutter.
That's the guy's name.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Eugene Nutting. That's the guy you call.
You can't have that name be cheap. Like, it's just like you need to be a fun rich guy if that's your name.
Robert Eugene Nutting.
You gotta be a fun rich guy if that's your name.
That's who you call. What should the Astros do?
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button down below, and of course, subscribe to my channel. And if you're a Houston sports fan, listen to ESPN Houston 97.5 FM or 92.5 FM weekdays from 3 to 7 every afternoon.